Hello everyone, this is John's never-ending list of random things to do, back here with some more Celica Supra content. In the past, I upgraded my front speakers to 4 inches, but now it's finally time to go up to 6.5 inch. For my installation, I went with the Alpine Type S coaxial 6.5 inch. And here are the dimensions of a speaker baffle I've been drawing up, that pairs up with the Alpine speakers. For this installation, I will break it up into 2 videos, Part A and Part B. Part A is for the passenger side, which is the prototype side. To begin, you'll need to pull off the door panel. I'll start by removing these 2 tabs here. Then remove this screw here. Then remove it here, unplug it, and then put it somewhere safe. Next, I'll go ahead and remove these 4 big screws. From here, I removed this screw here. Then this trim is ready to come out. And now the door panel is ready to be removed. Just place your finger behind here like so, and pull it forward. Make sure to work all the way around. And don't forget to unplug the harness here. Here I have a template. It's to make sure I align everything properly when I do the installation. Due to the size of my printer's print bed, I was forced to print this in 4 pieces. But that's not an issue, I'll just connect them using tape. This here is the speaker ring with a baffle. This here is just a speaker ring with no baffle, still in its prototype phase. This here is an alignment ring, you'll see me use it later. And this here will be the speaker grill. For the speaker trim, I made the hose so it accepts these inserts. To install the inserts, start it by hand first, make sure it's threading in straight, and then using a flathead screwdriver, screw it down until it's flush with the surface. On the speaker grill, it'll accept 4 of these inserts as well. I also made the hole a lot bigger on the speaker grill. Placing the speaker trim in here like so, there's a lot of space to move around. Starting with the door panel, remove these 3 tabs here. Now using this alignment tool here, place it here at the corner, and make sure it's aligned all the way along the edges. And once it has been aligned, use a tool of your choice, something to make scratches, or a marker, and trace all along the edges here. These elastic bands will no longer be needed, so I'll be removing all of them, including these staples here. Now using a razor blade, I carved all the way around slowly. This isn't the most efficient way, but it'll get the job done. Now before I got ahead of myself, I decided to stop and make these markings here. These are the holes to mount the speaker grill. If you look closely here, this mounting point is too close to this tab, so I eventually moved it to this square piece here. Now back to cutting, and the gloves are out, so things are getting a bit serious now. And eventually I got through. Placing the template to make sure everything aligns properly. And once I confirmed everything looked good, I went on ahead and started cutting this piece back here. This pocket is made of thicker material, so with a fresh blade, it cut through just like butter. Okay, it's time to see if I did a good job. It should easily fall through here. And since it's not going through, I'll have to make this hole just a little bit bigger. When I made the changes, I made sure to always check, to make sure I'm not taking off too much material. And eventually, it should just fall through with ease, just like this. Now using a drill bit, I drilled out these holes. From here I put these 3 tabs back on. Then I reinstalled the door panel, only securing it using the tabs. From here, I'll be using this alignment ring right here. I'll place it in here like so, and once I've got it centered, I'll trace along the inner circle. Since this door panel will be in the way, I'll be removing it. Before cutting this panel here, I went on ahead and looked inside, and noticed this harness here, but luckily it ran along the side and all the way to the bottom. Now it's time to pull out the saw and cut on the outside of the line. You'll see here that I barely missed the harness. I also went on ahead and chopped off this extra spiky piece right here. To install the speaker trim with a baffle, it has vents along here. It's installed with the vents facing up first. I placed it in here and spun it around until the vents were facing down. Now double check to make sure everything is aligned properly. And make markings where these holes are. I then used a punch. In order to mount this piece to the door, I could use sheet metal screws. But instead, I went with these rivet nuts that accept these M4 screws. Next, I'll start by drilling 4 small holes. Then I'll step it up to a bigger drill bit. And just to make sure the rivet nut fits. But before installing them, I'll go ahead and apply some paint so it doesn't rust. Now the 4 rivet nuts can be installed. From here, I also applied paint all along the edges that I cut, just to prevent it from rusting. At this point, I went on ahead and installed the speaker trim, just to make sure everything aligns properly. At this point, I wanted to make sure the window wasn't hitting the backside of the baffle when it was going up and down. And it just barely clears. From here, I went on ahead and reinstalled the door panel, just to make sure it aligns with the speaker trim. and once I confirmed that it fitted properly, the door panel came off once again. From here I removed only a little material to make it easier to mount the speaker grill. To mount the speaker grill, I used these M4 screws with washers. In goes the speaker grill and mounting it down. And with that installed, I'll go ahead and reinstall the door panel just to make sure everything fits properly. So everything is looking good. I was also able to close the door, but I don't have that footage. So with all the fitment testing done, it's finally time to do the installation. I'll go ahead and remove this speaker trim. I'll be installing the speaker wire right along this wire harness right here. But before proceeding, it would be best to clean up all the mess I made. Then I got some wire and traced it all along the wire harness. My wire ended up to be about 40 inches in length. To pass the wire through, I had to remove some trims. I started by removing this screw here. Then I removed this screw here. Next, there are 2 screws here and maybe a retainer back here, but all of mine are missing. So this kick panel is ready to be pulled out. Then I'll go ahead and remove these 3 screws to remove this lower panel. Poking my head down here, I should be able to find the 2 wires that connects to the speaker. And right down here, this harness goes out to the door. If you grip the wire from here, you'll see that the wire starts to move. I did this until the grommet fell out. What I did not realize was this tape was holding the grommet in, so when I tried to pull the grommet out, it ripped right here. Now that the grommet has fallen out, the next best thing to do is remove all this electrical tape. And of course, don't cut the wires. The goal here is to remove all this electrical tape so that we have an opening through the grommet. You'll see it right here. Now this wire can be passed through here. And then put it through the grommet. From here comes a little struggle trying to push the wire through the grommet and then receiving it on the other side. But once it starts to poke out, everything's a lot easier. Now before putting the grommet back, I went on ahead and applied new electrical tape to seal this off. From here, I had to push the speaker wire through the hole. Now when it finally goes through, pull in all the slack. To reinsert the grommet, I used one hand from the outside to push it in, and with the other hand, I pulled the wire just a little, and given some time and effort, it'll fall into place. I went on ahead and just removed these two speaker connections right here. And I zip tied the speaker wire all along this wire harness here. Since this side has two female ends, I'll go ahead and crimp two male ends on this side. Then I made the connection here. And I tried to find a place to tuck the wire away. Once I found the perfect place, I put on some zip ties. And with the speaker wire installed, the panels can be reinstalled. To install the kick panel, make sure it's underneath this trim here. Since my kick panel are missing all of its hardware, I'll go ahead and just reinstall this screw here. Now I'll place this panel up here like so, and screw it down. And of course, there's one screw that goes up here. Next, I'll be working on the door. Since I don't need this plastic piece here, I'll go ahead and cut it off. Next, I use some alcohol to clean the surfaces. With the surfaces clean, I can apply sound deadener. Before that, I'll have to remove this harness here. On the backside, the clip has two pins. Squeeze it and it'll just fall through. Now I can install the sound deadener. I placed it here like so, and using a roller, I press it all along the surfaces. Then I use the razor blade to make all the cutouts. I also applied some sound deadener on the inside of the door. And this is what it looked like. So I removed the speaker grill and I decided I wanted to wrap it with speaker cloth. I tried to guesstimate how much material was needed, and once I thought I had a good amount, I went on ahead and cut the material down to size. To apply the material, I could either use CA glue with an activator, or simply use a staple gun. Now all I had to do is pull the material up and staple it down, and I just always had to make sure there was tension across the fabric. And now I have something that looks like this. I went on ahead and removed the excess material. On the thinner walls, I ended up using CA glue. And look how fast this dries once it's hit with the activator. I applied some CA glue on the other thin wall as well. Then I removed some of the materials that were covering the mounting holes. And with that done, using some washers and mounting hardware, it's time to install the speaker grill. All I had to do was align the holes, then insert the screws. And when tightening down the screws, I made sure I didn't tighten it too tight. Since the door panel is made out of board, it'll break easily. And here's the revision I made on the speaker grill to utilize this hole here. A bigger sized washer will be needed here. And this is what it looks like. Before installing the baffle, I applied some foam tape all around the outer edge. Then to install it, the vented side is facing up. Once I've inserted in here, I'll rotate it 180 degrees, so the vents are facing down. At this point, I realized I didn't need any foam tape around this area here. Now using some screws and washers, I screwed the baffle down. Now placing my hand through here to help feed the wire through the baffle. Next I stripped these wires and crimped on female terminal connectors. And before installing the speaker, I applied some foam tape all around the outer edge. Next I made these connections here. Then I mounted the speaker down. In case if anyone needs visuals, here's what it looks like right behind the baffle. Now to reinstall the door panel. First, I made sure to reconnect this harness here. And making sure this wire is easily accessible through this hole. Now I can go ahead and realign the door panel. And not forgetting to pull this wire through. From here, align these tabs, then pop them back into place. This end will need a little guidance to go in. I had to pull the panel out just a little bit and install it perpendicular to the baffle, then it went straight in. Then smacking the retainers back into their location. I reinstalled this screw here. Then I made this connection here. Then I mounted it down. Next I reinstalled this screw here, and this screw in here. And the last of the 4 big screws here. Next I popped these tabs back into place. And last of all, reinstalling the door handle trim. I placed it in here like this, then screwed it down. And here are a few different angles of how it looks like installed.